Welcome to Getting Started with Newforma Project Center. The purpose of this video is to help you to get started using the basics of Newforma Project Center. When you open Newforma Project Center, you're taken to the My Project Center area where you'll see two tabs, one labeled My Projects and one labeled All Projects. By default, the My Projects tab is blank the first time you access Newforma Project Center. Your first task as a user is to populate the My Projects tab with those projects that are important to you. In that way, this My Projects tab will act as your favorites, so that gives you that quicker access to those projects that you're involved in. In order to populate the My Projects tab, simply click on the Preferences button, which is this button that looks like a bulleted list, which will then give you a pop-up menu. From the pop-up menu, select Edit My Projects. From the dialog box that appears, you'll populate the active projects portion of the window by clicking on the Add button in the lower left-hand corner. This will give you a list of projects from which you will pick those projects that you want to populate the My Projects tab. In order to select those projects, simply place a check mark in the box to the left of the project title of each project that you would like to view on the My Projects tab. Once you've selected all of the projects that you want to see on the My Projects tab, simply click on the OK button in the lower right-hand corner, and you'll see those projects populating the active projects portion of the window. Going forward, if there's a time that you would like to remove a project from the active projects or from the My Projects tab, simply select the project from here in the active projects portion of the window and drag it over to the right-hand side under the unused projects portion of the window. In that method, you'll actually remove that project from the My Projects tab. Once you've finished populating the active projects side of the window and/or the unused projects side of the window, click on Save Changes. Those projects will then be added to the My Projects tab, and once complete, you'll be able to view those projects listed here. When you're ready to access any project information, simply double-click on that project name from the My Projects tab, and that will open up into the project home page, which basically acts as your start page for your project information. This is where you'll access the different activity centers that will help you to manage your project-related information. The first activity center we want to talk about today is your Project Files Activity Center. In order to open any activity center, simply click on the name of that activity center, and that will then open up into that activity center. You'll notice when looking at the Project Files Activity Center that this looks a lot like Windows Explorer, and in fact it is a Windows Explorer type environment. This view is basically Newforma's view into where those files currently reside on your server. So these are not copies of files, they are the actual files on your server. Any action taken here in this Windows Explorer type area in this Project Files Activity Center will reflect on that server as well. So as a Windows Explorer environment, we have all of the same functionalities that you're used to using in Windows Explorer. For instance, by double-clicking on folders, that will actually open those folders so that you can drill down and get to the files contained within those folders. By simply selecting a file, you'll notice the lower portion of the window opens to give you a view of that file. Over on the left under File Tasks, you'll notice that you have an Explorer Tasks menu as well. By hovering over that Explorer Tasks and placing your cursor over it, you'll see the options that you have. You can open files, copy them, move them, delete them, all of the same functions that you're used to using in Windows Explorer, you have access to here. But you also have some additional functions. If you take a look at the added functions here, you can send a file via Info Exchange as well as email. One of the biggest advantages to using Newforma Project Center is that all of these project files are indexed so that they then become searchable. What that means for you is that you can actually use Newforma to find those files that are important to you. This box in the upper right-hand corner is our main search window. So if I know the file I'm looking for contains the word door, I can very easily and quickly have Newforma search for those files that contain the word door associated with this project. By simply typing the word door into this box and clicking on search, Newforma very quickly returns a list of results for any file that contains the word door. If I look to the left, I'll see that we found 770 results. That's still quite a few files, and then I can begin to filter using my column filters. You'll see a blank box at the top of each column, and this indicates that this is a filter. By simply clicking in that box with my cursor, if, for instance, type, I can then choose the different file types that I'm looking for. So if I know, in fact, that the file type I'm looking for is an Adobe Acrobat document, I can simply place a check mark in that box, click on my filter button, and I'm now beginning to filter down through that list of files. You'll see I've narrowed it down to 363, and then I can add additional filters. For instance, if I know the project name, I can begin to type that project name in the box, and as I begin to type, it will begin to filter and narrow it down to only those files that have that information contained within the name. Once I have the list of files I'm looking for, by selecting any of those files, I'll see a preview of that file in the lower portion of the window. So that gives me an idea if this is the file I'm looking for. Now if I double click on that file, it will actually open within the Newforma viewer. The types of files that open by default within the Newforma viewer are your PDF type files, your Adobe Acrobat documents, your 2D CAD files, your image files, and your DWG files. So all of those by default will open within the Newforma viewer. Once the Newforma viewer opens, you'll see I have this Drawing Explorer window, which is actually indicating to me where it found the text I was searching for. So if you remember, I was looking for the word door, and it's showing me that it did find the word door in this document. By selecting that text here in the Drawing Explorer window, it will cause the Newforma viewer to zoom in and highlight the area where it found that text. I can then close out of the Drawing Explorer window, removes my highlight, and then I can zoom out. If you look at the tools at the top, I can fit this into the viewing window. By clicking on that button, I'm now back to the original size. I do have a zoom option here where I can drag a box over an area and zoom into that particular area. And once I've done that, there are a few other things that I can do within the Newforma viewer. We do have the option to mark up this file, and to do that you'll see this icon with a white piece of paper and the red pen. This will actually allow me to pick my markup tools. Once I click on that, I have my markup tools listed down the left-hand side of the page. You'll see the first two rows are the actual tools that we can choose from, and the third row are the pens. By selecting the pen first, you're selecting the color and width of the pen that you want to use. And the next option you have is to choose your tool. So if I want to draw a cloud around an area, I can select that cloud tool. Go ahead and draw that cloud around my area with my cursor by dragging it around the area. And then if I want to add some more information to that, I can choose another tool, for instance text. Place my cursor wherever on the paper I want that text to show up, and type my text. This should be a single doorway. Once I click on OK, closes my text box, and I see the text appear on my page. Now once I've marked up this file in this way, I can actually save a snapshot of it if I want to do that. You'll see the icon here with an envelope allows me to take a snapshot of that current view and send it off. So by clicking, it's going to actually populate my email with a JPEG, which is that snapshot you'll see here, and then I can address my email and send it off. Another option I have for saving this markup is this icon here, which will allow me to actually create a PDF out of this file with the markup. By clicking on that icon, brings my PDF options up on the left-hand side, automatically flattens those markups and embeds them into that file by simply clicking on Create PDF in the lower left-hand side. I'll then be able to rename this file if I choose to do so, and then I can save it if I want to. Now, by default, this file will be saved within the project files, but you'll notice that I can save it wherever I choose. So in this case, if I choose to save this to my desktop, I'm going to choose the location I want to save it to and save that file. Another option I have for saving this is to save the markup. I have my traditional save button, which is my diskette over here in the left-hand side. Additionally, if I should try to close out of the viewer without saving the markup, the program will remind me that I have an open markup session and ask me if I want to save it. By clicking on yes, you'll then save that markup session. Again, you can actually name that markup session and it will be saved within the project files. It gives us the opportunity to rename it. I can add remarks. Once I'm ready, click on OK, and I'm saving the markup session. It's important to point out that when you're marking up these files, you're not changing the original file. You're simply adding a markup associated with that file. So that when you look at that related items column associated with any of these files, you'll see in this case there's an icon there that indicates there's a markup associated with this file, at least one markup. By double-clicking on that file again, it will open in the the new Forma viewer as the original file without the markups. Again, we have the Drawing Explorer window. I'm going to close that down, and if I zoom into that file, you'll see that there aren't any changes that have been made to that file. It's exactly the same as it was when I opened it up. No changes to the original file, but if I want to add those markups to it, I can do that by clicking on this binoculars icon, which will actually open up that Drawing Explorer window. And you'll notice there is a tab labeled Markup Sessions. By selecting that Markup Sessions tab, you'll see any markup sessions that are created and associated with this file, so that you can then select individual markup sessions or multiple markup sessions. Close the Drawing Explorer, and you'll see those two markup sessions have been added back to this file. At this point, I could then create that PDF and send it off. Once you're finished, simply close the viewer, and you're back to your list of results. Now we'll talk about how to file your project-related email. So in order to do that, we're going to jump over into Outlook. And here in Outlook, you'll notice we have a folder called New Forma Items to File. Within that folder called New Forma Items to File, there's an individual project folder. For each project that you add to that My Projects tab, there's a folder created that will allow you to very quickly and easily file these project-related emails. So for instance, if I look at this email here and I want to file it to the Alpengrove project, I can simply select it and drag it and drop it into that folder here. You'll notice that it does remove that email from my inbox, places a copy in the deleted items folder. What's important to remember about these folders here that are created under your New Forma Items to File is that they are not your typical storage folders in Outlook. So that when you come back to these folders, either later today or tomorrow, to find that email, it will no longer reside in this folder. It will have been filed to the project. So these are basically processing folders. You have to think of these as processing folders. So when you want to see that email, simply go to the Email Activity Center within New Forma Project Center, and you'll see that email listed there. Now, another way that you have that you can actually file your project-related emails to the project is you'll see some additional tools that were created in your tool ribbon at the top. So when you're ready to file an email to the project, simply click on this File in Project button, which will bring up a dialog box that will allow you to select the project you would like to file that email to. By clicking on the drop-down, you'll see the different projects that are available here. Select your project and simply click on OK. By using this method of filing the project to the email, it leaves a copy of that email in your inbox, and it immediately files that email to the project. It also adds a tag to it that you'll see here to let you know that it has been filed to the project. Any action that you want to take on an email, if I select a different email, whether you want to reply, reply all, or forward, if we select the Reply All button, you'll see you have a Send and File in Project button here as well. By typing out your reply and using that Send and File in Project button, your reply is sent and filed to the project at the same time. If you're creating a new email and it's project related, you have the same Send and File in Project button so that you can send your email and file it to the project again at the same time. You'll also notice that you have your regular Send button within any email, so that if that email is not project related or that reply is not project related, you don't have to use the Send and File in Project. Use the regular Send button and that email will not be filed to the project. Since we're familiar with filing the email now to the project, we'll jump back to New Forma Project Center and we'll talk about the Email Activity Center. So in order to access the Email Activity Center, I'm going to go back to the project homepage. To get back to the project homepage, you'll see this icon that looks like a house, and this will take you back to that homepage for the project. So once we click on it, we're back at that project homepage, and we can go to the next Activity Center by simply clicking on the name of that Activity Center, which in this case is Project Email. This will take me to a log of all of the email associated with this project. So because everybody is filing their email to the project as they should, you now have the ability to view all of those emails that are related to that project, regardless of whether or not you were on the From, the To, or the CC. And we can look at that list of emails as you see here. We have the option to filter based on this drop-down here between all messages or recent messages. This button to the left of the filter allows us to toggle between those messages that everybody is involved in. So whether or not you were on that From, To, or the CC, you have the ability to see it. If you only wish to view those emails that you were a party to, click on this button, and that takes you to only those emails that you were a party to. You have to have been on the From, the To, or the CC in order to see it. By clicking on the button again, that takes you back to all emails. By selecting any individual email from the log, you'll see a preview of that window, of that email here in the window. And by double-clicking on any one of those emails, that will open that in Outlook so that you have all of the functionality in Outlook. You can reply, forward, whatever action you need to take in Outlook can be done here by double-clicking on the email. You'll also have the opportunity to view a conversation email. So if you see that there's an email that looks to be more than one, there's a string of emails involved in this, you can simply select that email. And on the left-hand side under your task menu, you'll see you have the option to view that conversation. So by selecting View Conversation, it will narrow it down to only those emails that are a part of that conversation. When you're done with those emails, simply click on Clear Conversation, and you're back to your entire list of emails. If you have a need to have this email back in your Outlook, needs to be populated back in your Outlook because perhaps you're going out in the field and you need a copy of that email in your Outlook. So by selecting that email from here, you'll see over under tasks you have a copy to my mailbox option. By clicking on copy to my mailbox, it will perform the action, copy it to your mailbox, simply click on OK. Now when you want to access that email in Outlook, it does not place that email back in your inbox. You'll see there's a folder here named New Format Copied Messages. Anytime you copy a message from New Format back into Outlook, that email message will reside here in the New Format Copied Messages folder. From there, you can take any action on it you need to. Now we'll go back to New Format Project Center. And again, we're going to access that project home page so that we can talk about our Project Team Activities Center. As an internal user, in order to view any of this information through the website, any of this project information through the InfoExchange website, you do have to have made yourself a member of the project team and given yourself web access, as well as any external users that you would like to have access to that project information through InfoExchange. So in order to add members to the project team, you'll click on that Project Team Activity Center, which will take you to a list of all of the individuals that are currently associated with that project. If you have not made yourself a member of the project team, the system gives you a little notification over here by showing you this Join the Project Team link. So by default, the system knows that you have not made yourself a member of that project team. By clicking on Join the Project Team, you'll see your individual contact record, and you'll notice a tab labeled Project Roles and Permissions. By clicking on this tab, you'll see in the center of the page New Format InfoExchange options. So what you want to do is you want to make sure to check the box to allow web access to this project on InfoExchange. And that will make sure that you, as an internal user, have access to that project via the InfoExchange website when you're out in the field. You'll also notice that by default, the system has given me an internal user permission set. So it does know that I have logged in and accessed New Format Project Center, and it's giving me that internal user permission set. Click on OK. And now you've made yourself a member of the project team, and you'll notice that Join the Project Team link has been moved from the task menu. Now in order to add others to the project team, you'll see an Add Team Members option. Select from Contacts. This will show you your global contact directory. And from here, you can filter to find those individuals that you would like to add to the project team. Select your user, internal or external, and click on OK. That brings up your InfoExchange options window. Make sure you check that Allow Web Access to this project. You'll also notice that by default, the system has assigned that external user permission set to this user. Again, click on OK, and you've added that team member to the project. It's also important to note here that if this is the first time you have added an individual to a project and given them access to your InfoExchange site, they will receive a welcome email which will give them their login information. Click on OK. And then to add others, go back to your Add Team Members and we'll go from Contacts. If that individual is not a part of your global contact list and you need to add them from scratch, you'll see the Add New button in the lower left-hand corner. By clicking on Add New, that takes you to a blank contact record that you can fill out. The important pieces of information here are the email address, first name, last name, and the company information. Once you've filled out that contact information, click on that Project Roles and Permissions tab and make sure you check the box to allow web access. Once you're finished, go ahead and click on OK. The last method that I want to show you for adding contacts to your project team is through Outlook. So if I bring up my Outlook and I select my contacts, I can actually drag and drop contacts from Outlook into Project Center by simply selecting and dragging it to my Project Center open in the background. It'll go ahead and add that contact information. You'll also receive the checkbox to allow info exchange access. Check the box and select OK. Once you've added those individuals to the project team, you then have given them the ability to send file transfers back to you, as well as access any of that project information. So at this point, I'm going to show you how you can actually send a file transfer. So we're going to go back to that project homepage, and we're going to go to our Info Exchange Activity Center so that I can actually walk you through sending a file transfer. When we look at that that Info Exchange Activity Center, we see the log that we've seen before. It shows us all of the file transfers that have occurred associated with this project. We have our saved filters. We can filter to all transfers. We can see more information associated with those file transfers by selecting an individual file transfer. You'll see the information in the lower portion of the window. We can see when it was created, when the upload was started and completed, as well as when and if the files were downloaded. To view which files were actually downloaded, simply double-click on the line, and it will show you a list of those files that have been downloaded. Now, when you're ready to create a file transfer, you'll see under your Task menu, New File Transfer, select New File Transfer. The dialog box will ask you if you would like to fill out a project transmittal. Yes or no, depending upon your choice. Click on OK. That will actually take you to the file transfer dialog box. From here, there are only 3 items that are required for you to create and send a file transfer. The first is who you're sending it to. Now, if you have an email address and you haven't made that individual a part of the project team, that's fine. Type in the email address and you can still send that file transfer. If you've made them a member of the project team, by typing in that individual's name, it will bring up their contact information and you simply have to select it. The subject is another required field, so you do have to include the subject. And the only other item that you have to include would be your associated files. So simply select the Associated Files tab. From here, you'll see that you can add files or you can add a folder. Select either of those. We'll select Add Files for this training. Takes you to your dialog box to browse to where those files are located. Go ahead and find your files, select the files you would like to include, and add those to the file transfer. And once you're finished, click on Create and Transfer. Now the next option box that you'll see gives you some additional options as to who has visibility into this file transfer. So you'll see specify who has access to the file transfer on your Info Exchange website. Only the specified recipients indicates only that individual that I've addressed this to. Specified recipients and their fellow company members would indicate those individuals who are part of the same company but are also a part of the project team and been given web access. All project team members means everybody who's a part of that project team. Allow recipients to download partial contents, allows those individuals to download only a few of those files as opposed to having to download everything at once. Remove content from InfoExchange after 14 days. This actually helps you to keep your website clean so that it will actually expire that file transfer in 14 days time in this case. I do have the option to change that information by clicking on Edit. It will actually allow me to expire that information sooner or later depending on my needs. And I also have the option to set up reminders, to send myself reminders that somebody hasn't downloaded that information, as well as to send reminders to the external user that has not yet downloaded that information. The other option to point out here is under notification options, and you'll notice this option called Require InfoExchange Login to Download. This gives you an added level of security so that when that end user receives that email notifying him of the file transfer, he has a link to log into the site and he has to log into InfoExchange in order to download those files. Just remember that if you check this box, then that means that individual has to log into InfoExchange, so they have to be a part of the project team as well as have web access. Once you've set up your options, click on OK. And that will create and send that file transfer. Now, when you receive a file transfer, you'll receive an email notifying you of a file transfer. And you can come in here to InfoExchange. You'll see any file transfer in bold is a pending file transfer. So by double-clicking on that file transfer, you'll be able to acknowledge the file transfer and then view those files. That completes our session on how to get started using New Forma Project Center. Thank you for joining, and we hope you have a great day.